Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. I am your embattled host, Lou Stump, alongside my brothers in arms, Chet Liftkit and Joey Donati. I am beyond excited to welcome back to the program Joey Donati, back by popular demand. We have an action-packed agenda tonight, so let's just dive right in. The United States is officially launching a regime change war in Venezuela. And we could see massive military strikes on Venezuelan soil as early as next week. We are told it's an absolute necessity and it's in the best interest of the American people. But why? Because Maduro is a left-wing extremist and we have a moral obligation to make sure good democratic government reigns in our hemisphere? Because Maduro is in bed with drug cartels who are smuggling drugs into our country? Because Maduro colluded with the Chinese Communist Party and George Soros' Open Society Foundation to steal the 2020 election and establish an election fraud control grid in the United States? All of these things are probably true, but do they justify launching a full regime change war right now? The UK is arresting its citizens for speech violations. That's not very democratic. Mexico is actually a cartel state, and their president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is a puppet of the same cartels responsible for over 90% of drug trafficking into the United States. Ukraine's run by an unelected communist dictator that hates Christians, and we can't seem to stop giving them weapons and war funds. Meanwhile, in America, our own country, our own federal government is completely shut down. Federal employees aren't getting paid, including air traffic control. All EBT and SNAP benefits are being cut off this weekend. A pedophile sex trafficking blackmail operation is being covered up by the federal bureaucracy. A foreign lobby controls our entire federal government. Our country has been infiltrated by hundreds of thousands of military-aged men who invaded our borders during the previous administration. The United States military is in a two-front war, and China is about to invade Taiwan to suck us into a third. Finally, we sent all of our crucial artillery to Ukraine. So is regime change war really in the best interest of the American people? I think we have bigger fish to fry. What do you guys think?
Exactly, Lou. We got to be consistent if we're going to talk about overseas wars. If we're going to say Ukraine is pointless and we shouldn't be involved, if we're going to say Israel and Palestine is pointless and we shouldn't be involved, then why are we suddenly going after Venezuela? My heart points to the oil that they have. I think there's ways to plunder that without directly attacking them in an act of war. So it must be something else. But I don't think it's necessary. We got enough problems going on at home right now. I don't see enough of a threat in Venezuela to encourage this to go on. So Trump, what are you doing, buddy? We need transparency to the public about why we need to do this. Right now, it doesn't make any sense. So just more information would be nice. If Vance can talk to the online right-wingers, then that would be very helpful. But apparently not. So
Did he not run on being anti-war? Did he not do a complete 180 from his stance on Ukraine? With Zelensky's visits to the White House and how he was basically threatening him to cut him off if Zelensky's attitude persisted, and now we're just handing out money. This confuses me on the topic of Ukraine.
You're 100% right. Trump is the anti-war president. However, there is a precedent set for military action and regime change wars in our own hemisphere when our people are getting killed and when it's impacting the safety of our country. South America and Central America is a hell of a lot closer to us than Europe. That's the argument. And, there are drugs flooding into our borders. But how much of the drugs are coming from Venezuela? Not a lot compared to Cuba and, the Dominican Republic and Mexico and other countries in Central America. Thomas Jefferson was the father of the true American liberal movement. He was as anti-war in America First as it gets. Like, he founded our country, and he launched the first Barbary Wars. Why? Because these pirates in the Mediterranean were slaughtering our soldiers and raping and killing our women. So he had to do something about it. Every now and then, America has to swing their dicks. And this isn't even in our own hemisphere. Sometimes military action is justified. If you bomb Pearl Harbor, if you bomb our biggest military base in the Middle East, we're going to retaliate. Sure. Is that the same as what's going on in Venezuela? I don't know. I figure if we're going to punish Venezuela for being a communist dictatorship, like, why are we not going after the EU and especially the UK, the free speech violations we're seeing there? They're supposed to be one of our greatest allies. Why don't we go after Starmer? Instead, it seems like him and Trump are butt buddies. Doesn't make any sense. Why don't we go after Israel? They're ethnically cleansing Christians. They are, spying on us. They actually have the most intelligence against America of any country in the entire world. And they're our greatest partner and ally? I don't think so. That doesn't sound like a great friendship. They keep telling us that, oh, Venezuela is bad. They're socialists. They're far left. Well, despite being economically liberal, Venezuela is actually extremely socially conservative. Abortion, gay marriage, and sex change operations are completely illegal in Venezuela. One of very few countries to have those policies in our hemisphere. And the US-backed opposition leader that we want to replace from Maduro wants to legalize gay marriage. So are we going in there to do this regime change war to legalize gay marriage? Do we care about gay marriage? Apparently that's at the top of our list of priorities. I'll tell you what, if we're so concerned about regime change, why don't we go after Netanyahu? Israel is having the biggest impact on our foreign and domestic policy of any other country. Israel is going against President Trump's will. Israel is committing actions that are putting our own country at risk. Why don't we go after them? Why don't we remove the Likudniks from power? The thing is, Netanyahu is actually a moderate in Israel, and he's constantly trying to stave off Israeli hardliners. So if you chop off the head of Netanyahu, one of the hardcore Israeli nationalists is going to get in there. And then we're going to have an even bigger problem on our hand. And you could say the exact same thing about Venezuela. Maduro's not great. He's not good at all, actually. But do we really want the CIA to appoint some guy to replace him? When has CIA regime change ever been a good idea? I don't think it is.
It can't be. It can't be. And you made a good point, Lou. If we're talking about the drugs, we're getting way more drugs from other countries. If we want to talk about drugs, why don't we block up the border? Maybe they are doing that. I haven't noticed. I'm all for the real war on drugs, the real war on terror. The fentanyl is killing too many people. It's worse than almost any other problem in the country in terms of Americans dying, especially young American men. But what other ways can we go about that process besides starting a gay CIA regime change war? Is that all they know how to do? Is there extra funding in the CIA that they're trying to use up so they don't get their budget cut next year? Probably. So we should have considered our options better. Now we're going to have Venezuela being a problem to everybody down there.
Exactly. Like, why Venezuela? And why not the cartel state on our southern border? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how are we prioritizing which cartel state we go after? I don't understand the logic. Venezuela doesn't seem like as big of a threat as all these other South American and Central American countries that are smuggling the majority of the drugs into our country. And the CIA has been trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government for years, even since Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez. So clearly the CIA wants this regime change. When has this ever worked for us? I don't know. Well, and when's the last time they told us that we had a communist threat that we had to eliminate in our own hemisphere? We've heard this before. It's almost like history repeats itself. Have you ever heard of the Bay of Pigs? They set up JFK. They set him up. But you know what he did? he dug his feet into the dirt. And you know what he got for it? A fucking piece to the dome, a blast. And he was dead. And then they killed his brother and they killed all of his friends. I don't trust the CIA. And the fact that Trump is just bending the knee to whatever Ratcliffe says so willingly is concerning. We don't need a Bay of Pigs 2.0. But I don't think this is going to be a Bay of Pigs 2.0. It seems like Trump is all over this. He's eating it up. And I wonder why. It seems like Trump's got his head on straight compared to his last administration, and he has a lot more good people in his administration, but he doesn't have his ear to the streets. He doesn't have time to. They have him doing some sort of public engagement or a massive meeting with corporate CEOs or foreign leaders every minute of every day. This guy works at least 22 hours a day, and it's, one, not good for his health, but two, he doesn't have any time to figure out what the fuck's going on. Like, what are the American people saying? He doesn't have time to listen to us because they don't allow him to. The same way that all these figureheads in his cabinet are on Fox News every 5 minutes, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, they have no idea what's going on at the ground level. They are puppets. They are figureheads. They are not tapped into what's actually going on. And it appears like J.D. Vance might actually be. But is this all part of the Palantir Israeli plan to take over the United States? Maybe. I don't know who to trust anymore. But I'll tell you one thing. It's concerning how quickly so many of the ardent anti-war populists hopped on the train to go into Venezuela. Is it not?
Yes. Yes. Very crazy. One of the things I want to point out here is that, one of the reasons that people, either informed or uninformed, might support this is that we're taking action and flexing American muscles. One of the things that we never saw under Biden or any other president in the past 20 years, is going out there and making shit happen. So watching Trump go and bomb the boats without the approval of the liberals, without the approval of whoever, it's like a statement of defiance against the system that was holding everybody back. And I've heard it described as the fix everything easily button. And, there's a whole picture about it where it's like, you can't press it. Nobody really wants to press it. Pressing it would be disastrous. But it's Trump going out there and pressing buttons that people say not to. And it's kind of inspiring hope in a lot of people that we actually have capabilities as a country instead of being totally bought and totally under control. So just a nuance to that. But what you said about intelligence community, we don't want the CIA in charge of this because, why would we? Why would we? But while we're talking about CIA and intelligence in America, I want to bring up something that came across my desk earlier today. So Kash Patel, our favorite Indian man in the government, shut down the Charlie Kirk foreign intelligence probe in an explosive feud with Trump's counterterror chief. So Kash Patel first, what did he do right when they got into office? After all the promises for the Epstein files, which still aren't released, they're hiding them. Kash Patel is hiding them. He is directly responsible for hiding them. And so now here we are after an event which many people theorized that had the involvement of the Israeli government or Mossad. They're shutting that down too. So it almost makes you think, like, what are the similarities here? And people pointed out a lot of things about Israel that could have led to them ordering or inspiring the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But I don't know why we would need to shut down a foreign intelligence probe. I can't think of one singular reason why this would need to be shut down. If it's not fruitful, then so be it, right? But at least let them try. So bad optics bad optics for Kash. We already knew he was compromised, but this is getting even worse. So we need to turn it around.
Weeks before this report went public, Alex Jones went on air and slipped in a little teaser, a little tidbit. Somebody that was in a cabinet meeting, a private cabinet meeting without the media, with JD Vance, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, was witness to a heated confrontation between Gabbard and Patel, where Patel killed an investigation into any accomplices to Charlie Kirk, foreign or domestic. Joe Kent and Tulsi Gabbard were making a case because they have evidence that there was foreign tampering. And that foreign tampering came from the CCP. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Kash Patel is preventing them from launching a full investigation and actually getting to the bottom of it and figuring out what other countries were involved. And he's refusing to share intelligence. Like, ODNI was created after 9/11 strictly to make sure that these federal agencies were sharing information with each other so that we could catch bad guys and prevent future catastrophes from happening. So why is Kash Patel doing this? I don't know. Why don't you ask his Israeli girlfriend, who he flies around on his private jet from city to city, from coast to coast, during a federal government shutdown when his own guys don't even get paid, when air traffic control doesn't even get their paycheck. He's just flying around without the governor on his fucking jet, full speed, with his Israeli girlfriend topping him off in the back of the jet. It sure would be a damn shame if those Epstein files got released, because it's not just about Jeffrey Epstein. It's about every single other sex trafficking operation, every single other blackmail operation that is still going on today. It wasn't just Epstein back then. And there's a lot more than Epstein going on right now. And until we crack the code on what's going on with Epstein, these blackmail rings are just going to keep going. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kash Patel's little girlfriend had anything to do with one of those rings. This is just a hypothesis. I don't know for sure. So don't fucking deport me, Kash.
And they're showing up at doorsteps now. You say something bad about Kash, you say something bad about Israel. You know, I get this, the guy in Texas might have been on the extreme end of things, but are we policing speech now? They went in there, they didn't have a warrant because there wasn't a crime, because we have the semblance of a First Amendment still, but they're harassing this guy for no reason other than his online speech. So are we living under the Israeli surveillance state or not? Yes, we are. Why do they let us notice all these things? Perhaps it's to make the alt-right look like the villain in the story and the Jews look like they're being persecuted again. So lots of motivations, lots of motivations. Real quick, before we go to any other big topics here, I just found out about this new organization. Eli Kohanim is the chairperson or keynote speaker for the American Hindu Jewish Congress. They had their first annual gala at Mar-a-Lago. So the antithesis to everything we stand for here at the Nimrod Pod. You know, Chet's not really a fan of the H-1Bs. Chet thinks we need to shut the program down. But here we are, combining that with the Zionist movement in one big party at Mar-a-Lago. Has there ever been a worse omen than this right here? And this is Lara Trump speaking at it. So what the hell? What the hell is going on at Mar-a-Lago? Can we solve the Indian problem? Do we really have to be Zionists? If they released a bunch of blackmail information on Trump, would anybody really do anything about it? I don't think so. So why doesn't he just stand up to him? You know, we got to pull our support and bite the bullet on any potential blackmail that they release, because it's getting to a point where Americans are fed up and we're going to see the rise of extremism, especially in young people, if this doesn't turn around quickly.
JD sees where the people are going. Tucker Carlson has Nick Fuentes on his podcast, and he receives massive backlash real legitimate organized attacks against Tucker by the AIPAC-funded neocon Zionist wing of the GOP. And we have these political pundits like Josh Hammer calling for Tucker's execution just because he interviewed some guy that is super cool and based. That's gay, Josh Hammer. Why is Josh Hammer not being regime changed? Why can't we send the U.S. military after Josh Hammer? That nose could take out an entire continent.
That's goddamn right. No, I love watching Nick Fuentes on Tucker. And it's good that even if they haven't squashed their beef to the fullest extent, that they're sitting down and talking about it. Isn't that what we stand for here? Don't we want open discussion? So yeah, it was good that he got on there. And everybody who says that it's not, what's their motivation? Every single time it is Israeli money. So put two and two together, people. We have a movement for the people, by the people, which is encompassed on the bookends by Tucker and Fuentes. And then there's a establishment elite class that is being funded by AIPAC, by the Israeli lobby, that is trying to suppress it. And it's not working. So they are getting increasingly worried that they're losing the young people. They're losing the information war. I haven't noticed any false flags. I haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary recently. Has there been anything happening, or does nothing ever happen?
Something does happen. I'm sick and tired of nothing ever happens, Chud. It's all bullshit. Charlie Kirk got his fucking head blown off. Donald Trump almost got his head blown off. They're shutting off the welfare this weekend. They failed to stage a real false flag. They couldn't incite enough violence in their own dumbed down population of the Democrats during the No King's Day. So what comes next after that? They cut off the welfare. There's a reason that communism and socialism doesn't work. And that's because when you give the government the power to feed you, you also give them the power to starve you. So you're not supposed to rely on the government for anything. At the end of the day, we have different means of getting to the same end. And if you're on the team of America first and you don't prioritize other countries over our own, and you're more concerned about domestic policy than foreign policy, then we're on the same team. As long as you're not cutting our children's genital off and establishing a centralized digital currency and poisoning our food and putting fluoride in the water, you're one of the good guys. You're America first. You're a conservative populist. And I welcome you in the family. And it's awesome to see Nick's evolution as a man. He's maturing. He's burned a lot of bridges, but like by burning these bridges, he's built entirely new ones, and he's strengthened. Like he's completely revolutionized the right wing in the right direction. And now he has popular support. Like now he's actually pulling away some of those psychotic socialist populist Democrats as well from the Bernie bros, from the Zohran Mamdani. Maybe there is a future for the Republican Party or an entirely new one to challenge the Republican Party and squeeze out the Democrats. I think Nick Fuentes, along with many others, has paved the path for the Democrats to be squeezed out. He sees that they're a priority to eliminate, and that's why he's teaming up with fellow conservatives right now after Charlie Kirk's death to take them down. And once we take them down, we can then challenge GOP, and we can have actual discourse and differing opinions in a real country again. I really hope more leaders in the populist movement will extend a hand to Nick Fuentes. I hope Joe Rogan has Nick Fuentes on within the next 3 weeks. And if he doesn't, I think that is a damn shame. I think that's a problem.
You know what? I've been seeing a lot of Stop Jewish Hate ads. And this brings me to a movie we've all seen before, BLM, which is now known as JLM. They're trying to shove it down our throats again. They're trying to make everything and anything about them, the hate towards them. Oh, they get so much hate. They get so much. People just ruin their lives daily by antagonizing them as what they are. So yeah, I got a lot of ads on that stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, what one thing we've all been looking for is a someone who speaks the truth. And I think we found that in both Tucker and Nick Fuentes in one way or another. And for them to come together, separate their differences, just to get the truth out, at least some of it, something that's pretty awesome to see, pretty cool to see. I think truth is something that's been hard to come by. Because, like, for example, I'm not going to get into it, but we thought Kash Patel was someone he clearly isn't anymore. So it's the consistency in who I'm listening to. And I think Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson are in that category.
The reason people love people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes is because they're not white pilled and just go to sleep while Trump's in office and let him do whatever he wants because everything's gonna be okay. And they're not black pilled, slitting their wrists and thinking everything's over. They're truth pilled. When Trump does something good, they celebrate it. They shout it from the rooftops. When Trump is fucking up, they push back as hard as possible and they hold his feet to the fire. That is called democracy. That is a constitutional republic. This is freedom. This is independence. This is 1776. This is what real populism looks like. You're not supposed to be a yes man. You're not supposed to side with the politician. You're supposed to side with ideas. You're supposed to side with policy. You're supposed to side with good and evil, right and wrong. It's about time our country gets back to that. We need to break from the uniparty. The two-party system is completely broken. And we're coming from a system that was meant to be built on checks and balances, but it has instead become the power of the majority party, meaning whoever has a majority in the Congress and whoever's in the White House gets to do whatever they want, and there's no pushback. That needs to change. That's not how the founding fathers built this country. They gave us a republic, and it's up to us to keep it. And right now, we're on the cusp of losing it. We have reached the boiling point, and we need to take action. We need people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes to completely break the system and rebuild it with the snap of a finger without letting this country crumble. And the real question is, are we going to descend into chaos? Are we going to have a civil war? I think we might. I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but several Trump administration officials have been moved to military bunkers because they know there's an impending civil war following the shutoff of the welfare, the EBT and SNAP benefits. They're going to have starving people that are reliant on the government, and they're going to blame who? Doesn't matter. When people don't have food, they turn into psychopaths. And within 2 weeks, they'll start eating each other. So what do we have to do? What should Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones be shouting from the rooftops? Flood the fucking churches and the food banks with food. We should make it so there is a surplus of food for all these fucking ankle-biting, pipe-hitting bitches living on the streets that can't buy a pack of Kraft macaroni and cheese. And we're going to look like the good guys. Let's especially flood those churches. Fuck the food banks. We're going to start a crusade, a Christian revival. Every single person will be starving, and who's going to save them? Disciples of Christ. That's the statement we need to make, gentlemen.
Damn right, Lou.
Very, very well said.
Damn right. I didn't even think about that. But great idea. When you're presented the opportunity to be the hero, it might be wise to take it. And although I don't like Tyquisha and her 7 kids on welfare, there are a lot of people who are disabled and veterans and rely on SNAP and EBT. So it would be a fine idea to save all their lives.
If Trump really wanted to, he could use this opportunity to massively downsize the government. He could completely wipe out the social security blanket of EBT and welfare and SNAP and reduce the size of our government. That's a good thing. But you know what you need for that? You need Doge. And you need Doge back immediately so that they can apply zero-based budgeting to make sure we are efficiently spending our money, and they can reallocate capital to the appropriate groups that are doing the most damage per dollar, and they can cut the fat.
So Nimrods out there that don't know, we spend a shitload of money on entitlement programs. It is like unbelievable the amount of money we spend. And a lot of it it's increased by a lot in the past 5 years, like everything, like housing prices, like food prices, everything. But the amount of spending we put into SNAP isn't just to help people out. If the government wanted to help people out, they would do a bunch of other stuff too. But this SNAP spending and this EBT spending is an economic control measure. So whenever they give these people SNAP, it's basically them directly paying the grocery stores so to keep the economy rolling. And so this hundreds of billions of dollars every year is basically an economic stipend through indirectly through the consumers. So they have no motivation to cut this off in the government level. They don't care how much you pay in taxes. They would rather it be all of your income so they could spend it all. So if we want to shut this down, we're going to have to do it against the will of everybody that's currently in office. Other things that I wanted to bring up, obviously, like Lou said, there's a lot of people on SNAP and EBT that are disabled, that are veterans. They need it. And those people deserve the help. I'm sure if you asked all the Americans, if you surveyed everybody, 80% of people would say, yes, let's send our tax dollars to help them, especially the vets. But a massive subset of the recipients of these entitlement programs are just lazy, poor, urban people. And here's a funny thing. If you Nimrods out there don't know this joke, it's that you type in "is we getting" into the search bar on Google, and the first five suggestions that pop up that auto-populate are: is we getting food stamps? Is we getting extra food stamps this month? Is we getting a fourth stimulus check? Is we getting money from Instagram? And then if you say, is we cutting? Is they cutting? The first five are: is they cutting off Section 8? Is they cutting Section 8? Is they cutting food stamp? Is they cutting Social Security? So do you, as an American taxpayer, think that these people who can't even type properly in the English language, is your priority that your tax dollar pays for them to go eat? Is your priority that they can go buy lobster tail and steak with your tax dollar? If a woman who has separated from her husband in the center of a vibrant urban community, if she has 7 kids with 7 different men, and she receives $4,000 a month for food stamps, would you rather her only be able to buy bare bones food and just the necessities? Or would you rather her spend all that money on Diet Coke? We have to ask ourselves these questions as taxpayers. We're getting to a point where people are old enough in this generation to make a difference in policy. And so it's good to envision the ideal. I think ideal SNAP, I know it's getting cut off, and they haven't decided on that, but and they will wreak havoc. But ideal food stamp, I think we disabled, and you have to prove it to me directly. You have to prove it to me. I need to see the floppy hand, and I need to see the paint chips residue on your lips with the pictures when you were a kid. So they have to prove it to me, and then they can buy only whole foods, single ingredient, no nutrition facts. They're getting fruits and vegetables, animal-based products, and water and milk. That's it. Done. That's all you need. That's all you need. So, if it's not just something to help starving people stay alive, then why are we doing it? Are we providing welfare to people so they can buy soda? Fuck no. Let's stop doing that. Thanks.
Yeah, Trump should use this opportunity to shut down SNAP and WIC and EBT until it can be reformed. Like all these food and beverage manufacturers are constantly having to adhere to WIC guidelines. If we just slash it all together, they won't have to make shelf-stable foods full of preservatives. They can actually make fresh, wholesome, clean, single ingredient foods from the earth. And people might actually get healthy. These fat fucks that can't even get up from their Wally chair as they play Nintendo Switch all day and jerk off, maybe they'll get a fucking job and eat some fucking red meat, for the love of God. Speaking of shit that we waste our money on, I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but the United States citizen and our tax dollars are going over to the Middle East to pay for a two-state solution in Israel and Palestine. One state for the Jews and one state for the Muslims. What if we had a three-state solution? We're the ones paying for it. We're a Christian country founded by Protestants on Christian values. Why don't we demand a third state, the holy state of Jerusalem? Like, what's going to happen to Christians in a two-state solution? How are Christians currently being treated today in Israel and Palestine? Terribly. They're shooting down churches. They're missiling, blowing up churches. They're persecuting Christians. They're slaughtering Christians just like they're members of Hamas. We should demand a three-state solution. And I'll tell you what, there's a good argument about preserving the Christian holy sites. The thing I got to tell you is Christians don't need holy sites. Christians have no spiritual attachment to earthly things. So how can we use the Jews defending our holy sites as a reason to justify the Jewish state? Let's just cut out the Jews altogether and let's have our own state. And we can oversee the Holy Land. We can oversee the exact location that Jesus came down to earth from the heavens, died on the cross, rose from the dead, and ascended to heaven. We could have that as Christians, not the Jews. What are y'all's thoughts on a three-state solution compared to this fucking bullshit two-state solution that we're paying for?
Sure, Lou. I think the three-state solution idea is interesting. I think it is interesting. I don't know if it's possible, given the tensions in that area, especially, between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Not to say that either one of them is worse. I think both of them are bad. So I think get them both out of there, clear it out, and we'll establish, Puerto Rico too, a colony of the United States. And like Lou said, we'll defend it ourselves. If we're worried about these holy sites, then let's just go put American soldiers over there. Let's turn it into the most vibrant place on the Middle East, full of Western values that are certainly compatible with the people over there. One thing's for sure, the two-state solution isn't working, and I'm tired of paying for it. And I know a lot of people are tired of paying for it. I think most people in that camp, and in the camp that we're in, would be fine with just leaving it. If we didn't have to pay for it, then let them go ham. Let them bomb each other with their own bombs. Who cares? Who cares? But if we're under their control, if our government is under their control, if we're under constant lobbying pressure, if our media personalities they're attempting to control them, then it's not cool. It's not cool. So Chet's solution is one state, and it's Christians, and it's the fourth crusade. We're back. The Templars are back, and we took the Holy Land back, and it's ours forever. Arm it with nukes. It's ours. Thanks.
I don't know how we can win this battle. It
Yeah,
feels like they've got the media, they've got everything to shove down our throats. So,
but it's not working anymore, Joe. It's not working anymore. Everybody that's our age or younger knows the truth. They see right through the bullshit. And that's why there's a disconnect between this generation and the early generation X and boomers. Boomers have been propagandized their entire life through the TV screen and through their politicians that they can't even fathom the fact that, maybe we should just turn it into a Christian state. They'd say, no, it's God's chosen people. They deserve to live on the Holy Land. That's their country. It was promised to them 3,000 years ago. But the younger generation is done with that. It's over. So here's our chance. We got to roll out something that works. And we need to spend more time visualizing what's the ideal state rather than tearing down what's already there. Just because, yeah, obviously it's unsustainable. But if we don't center around a goal, then it's going to be too late before we know it.
Whoever the Zionist billionaires back in the 2028 election will lose. Everybody sees where the wind's blowing. Like we all saw JD Vance's performance he put on last night at Ole Miss. He knows where the wind's blowing. He knows what the people are thinking. He knows what the young people are thinking, and he's grifting. He knows what we want to hear, and he's saying it. Whether or not he means it, he knows that he cannot win the 2028 election if he's a shill for Israel, if he's Peter Thiel's little butt buddy. He knows it.
Goddamn right, Lou. Goddamn right. And like I was saying, the Nimrods out there need to know Vance is looking really, really good recently because he reads all this stuff online. He goes to these events or he goes on his X account like he's a normal fucking guy. And then he just repeats it all back. He repeats it all back. He knows the young people at Turning Point in Ole Miss don't approve of Palantir. So he says, I don't approve of Palantir. He knows they don't like Indians. He knows they don't like Hindus. So he says, my wife should convert. He knows they don't like Israel. He says Israel isn't America. And he knows they don't like immigrants. So he says immigrants suck. So he is taking everything and just putting it directly into his playbook. Sort of, yeah. So it's grifting. It's literally just grifting. And
Maybe he is just blowing smoke, but it's good to hear, Chet.
it is good to hear, man. And that's the that's the point, right? That's why he's saying it, because people like hearing it. And that's giving him support from the young folks. It's trying to keep everybody in the camp of President Trump and the Israel controlled lobby. So one point that this guy makes, this Aiden guy on X, he's a good follow. He says, when the actions follow, he will have answered the criticisms. And that's what I want to stress the most. Like I've always said, if we're hearing empty words with no follow-up action or even a plan to fix these problems, then it's patronizing. And of course it's grifting. But it's almost more offensive than a hardcore communist leftist just honestly going against our movement. If we're having somebody get up on stage and pretend that they're on our side just for votes, I don't like it. I don't like it. We got to see actions. Still a little bit of hope because they're obviously listening. So they know what the people want at this point, and the ball's in their court.
Tell you what, we cannot trust JD Vance. He has to earn our trust with concrete action, not just words. And the only way to do that is by defying Trump's foreign policy blunders while Trump's still in office. The problem with this whole JD secession plan is that he's going to be Trump's right-hand man or his bitch until Inauguration Day in 2029. So when is JD going to have a chance to really tell us how he feels? I don't think he's going to get it. I don't think anyone in Trump's cabinet is really going to get it unless they want to risk their job. This poses a problem. And the only way that MAGA or someone in the Trump administration could possibly win in 2028 is by joining a ticket with someone from the populist, conservative, far-right, libertarian wing of the Republican Party. That's it. Like, it has to be an RFK Massey. It has to be a Carlson Gabbard. It literally has to be someone in the Trump administration to get all the boomers, to get all the normies, and then it has to be someone from the base trad group. And I think we have some options. The problem is, like, who's Trump going to back? And like, are they going to be running against each other? Are we just going to have a clean Joe Biden is the new candidate and everyone's just going to go with it? We're not going to vote on it. Or Kamala Harris is now installed to replace Joe Biden. Are we going with that? Or are we going to have some competition? I think we're going to have a fuckload of competition because there are obviously people on both sides of the conservative movement that are going to want to make sure we destroy the Democrats and would be willing to combine for a super ticket to rally as much support as possible. There's also going to be grifters. Like there's going to be the Kanye types. There's going to be people even more far right than the Groypers. I'm talking Stu Peters and all these fucking idiots. They're going to find some guy to run that hates Israel for sure. Like there's also going to be like Lindsey Graham's butt buddy neocons that are going to try to run. We might even see another Bush. So we're going to have a primary. Are we going to see multiple people from the Trump administration on the stage at the same time? I don't know. I feel like we almost need a superstar household name to put their name in the bucket and scare everybody else away so we have unity. And you know what the one name that comes to mind? The only name, Tucker Carlson. He's the only guy that could come in and swing his dick like Trump did. If not, it's going to be a fucking battle between the good guys. It's going to be RFK going after JD, going after Rubio, going after you name it. All of our guys. Massey's going to throw his hat in the ring. This could be dangerous for the movement. But if we nip this divide in the butt today, before they start campaigning, we could prevent a lot of bloodlust. You guys disagree?
No, I don't. I think that the primary is going to sort a lot of things out. As long as we're, if we want to stick with the Republican Party, which is most likely since it's not that far away, the primary will sort things out, and then people will I think they'll fall in line and vote for our best chance to not have a leftist get elected. One thing I don't agree with is that we need libertarian influence. I think that libertarianism, at least in its most extreme, is very fallible ideology. And so I have a funny image up here, which is making fun of libertarians. And the joke is kind of like, libertarians want feral Haitians to protect their legal homosexual human barbecue pot farm with guns in your country. And if you don't allow that, then it's socialism. When you take libertarian to its extremes, then you end up with an ideology that doesn't work. So I think while it could be good for balance purposes on the ticket, if we want to absorb some voters, I think we need to end up on the right side of the political compass, sort of right in the middle. We don't want a massively authoritarian person running, although that's what some people think they want right now. We don't want that. And we also don't want somebody going full libertarian mode, because the policy isn't good and it's not functional in America. So divided is my stance right now. I don't know what to think. And listening to JD Vance, I love all the things he says. We need to see action. And really, really, what would be really awesome is a new name coming into the mix. We've had our time with all the ones that are there right now, and it doesn't seem clear which one should go for it. And especially not clear after Trump kind of went back on a lot of his promises, and he still wields a lot of power in the MAGA movement. But, the Tucker Carlson thing, I think that could be a fun idea. Because I listen to Tucker and I think, well, who has a better handle of the situation than this guy? He just released a 5-piece 9/11 documentary where he said a bunch of things that would have got him shot 10 years ago. So the Overton window has shifted. We are having real discourse now. He just brought on Nick Fuentes. So if Tucker doesn't make a run, I'd be surprised. And I think I would back him over Vance. I think I'd back him over Massey, probably over Trump at this point. So let's see something.
Without a doubt, I would have backed Tucker in 2024 if he ran, for the record. Before he backed Trump, there was a possibility, but he was pretty clear that he knew Trump had to win due to the lawfare and the assassination attempts. But I would have been all for Tucker, and I will be all for Tucker. I will campaign for Tucker if he runs in 28. No joke. That's how important this is to the future of our republic. It's big. I want to pivot, gentlemen. We've talked a lot about the Jews And by juice, I mean orange juice. No, I mean the Israelis. They've controlled our whole country and really sent us in a spiral of chaos. But if we're going to talk about the Jews, we got to spend a little bit of time on the jihadis. All right, listen to me. We all know Israel's bad. We all know Israel's controlling our government. But that doesn't mean we have to go side with the Muslims. No, these are two bad things. And I see a lot of dumbasses that are anti-Israel now converting to Islam because they think they're based and trad and cool. Well, what does the Quran say about non-Arab Muslims? The Quran says black people, quote, aren't human. And I got clowns like Myron Gaines and Andrew Tate lecturing me about how based Islam is. Again, Israel's a big problem, but that doesn't mean you have to side with Islam. They are both bad, and Christ is the only remedy. Last time I checked, the only path to salvation is through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, not fucking goats, marrying 20 different women, killing Christians and black people, and wearing stupid headdresses. What do you guys think about the Quran and Islam?
Well, it's founded with the same sort of prophets, and it refers to, the same God as the Bible and the Torah. They revere Jesus much more so than Judaism. But, it's obviously false in that they don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. Islam as a practice seems to be an extremely hyper-violent sort of ideology. And maybe that's just because of the people that follow it. Maybe if Islam was the founding religion of a country like Sweden with all white people, then it wouldn't be as problematic. But to this day, we see Muslim hordes genociding Christians in Rwanda, in Africa, all over the place, in the Middle East. So, not compatible. I agree, Lou. It's stupid to think that in order to avoid the Israel influence, we have to go to Islam. One of the things that makes people think that is the connection that has been forged between Judaism and Christianity through the use of terms like Judeo-Christian. So we have to break that off. We have to break that off, lead people towards the light in Christianity. And to an extent, we can't go follow Zoran Mamdani just because he says he won't visit Israel and the rest of them are slaves to the Zog. You can't go vote for a socialist mayor in New York just because he's the first guy to publicly denounce Israel in the public eye. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But I think there's something to be said about a partnership with the Islamic world that Christianity can have that we're not taking advantage of now because people are too focused on our connection with Israel, their fight with the Islamic world, and they think it extends to us as well. But some nuance there.
Yeah, it's not just the pro-Israel movement and all these influencers that are forcing people to Islam. It's weak Christians. People that are pissed off about what Israel's doing to Americans and Christians see how Islam's pushing back, and they see silent isolationism out of the Christians. I have to remind our listeners every single week that Christ commands us to be radical, to speak unashamedly, to leave a legacy on this earth that will echo for generations. He doesn't want us to live normal, quiet lives. No, he wants us to change the world, and he wants us to bring as many people with us to heaven, bar none. That's it. Again, the word evangelical has been hijacked, but Jesus commands us to be evangelists, which just means introduce as many people to Christ as possible. I need to see radicalization of the Christian faith in the form of a peaceful crusade. And there's a clear appetite to make that happen. If you go to church right now, you can see there is a revival. People are ready to go to war. And we can take this emotion and we can turn it into something special. We can eradicate Islam and Judaism through the power of Christ in a peaceful crusade. And I think that is the only solution to our foreign and domestic problems. That's it.
That could work. That could work. Peaceful Crusade. I'd like to hear more, but while we're on the topic of Christianity, we have a lot of problems with Catholicism recently. There's even a theory floating around backed by Mel Gibson and potentially even Mel Goodman that 2 popes ago, the Zogs, the Zionists infiltrated the papacy, and that's why it's kind of going downhill. But I have a redemption story for a young Catholic strapping priest out of the UK. So he joined an online chat group dubbed as a neo-Nazi chat, and he sent a bunch of messages about bombing mosques and shooting black people. And what I have to say is, who hasn't done that, right? Who hasn't done that? Nimrods out there, tell me you've never made a joke, even if it wasn't in a group chat online, about bombing mosques and shooting black people. Are we not allowed to joke anymore? Are we not allowed to joke? And although this guy is probably saying things a little more extreme than most people and may or may not be joking, we can't cower away from the the scrutiny of the left because they're in a world where they think they can tattle on people and make them hide from society. That's the same thing with the group chat that we saw with the young Republicans. They want everybody to disavow it, to prove that they have control over the sphere of influence in American politics. But you can't let that happen. So unironically, Chet backs this priest. Chet thinks this priest is he's a beam of hope for the free speech movement. I think that in order to take this country back, we can't be fearful of the left uncovering these secret things and blasting them out to the world like it's supposed to be some sort of game. Like, we need to be allowed to make jokes, and a bunch of words in a group chat is not going to hurt anybody. So thank you, priest, for being a for being a for being an indispensable cog in our march toward free speech and making America great again.
There's a massive movement of Catholics. I've seen it on X that believe, as you said, that the last pope, the last true pope, was pre-Vatican II, when the Jews got involved, when the Zionists got involved and completely changed what the papacy is. We go back in time, the Virgin Mary warned Catholics that they would have to go underground when the papacy was eventually infiltrated, and it was. Right? It happened. We know when it happened, and now there's this new movement that Mel Gibson's leading that is publicly opposing the corrupt papacy, but maintaining their Catholic roots. I think there is something special about the tradition and the stability of Catholicism. And if that's how you have to worship to have a relationship with Christ, you fucking go do it. That is the beauty of Christianity. There's only one holy ruler and one truth, and that is Christ. As long as you are true to the one truth, you can worship in whatever way you please that will bring you closer to Christ. I'm all in. I want to finish up with probably the most important topic we're going to talk about today. Weed versus Kratom. We heard Nick Fuentes and Tucker talk a little bit about weed and how it makes you a lazy fucking loser. And that's why it's bad. And if you tell stoners that weed's bad, they spaz out. They freak out like addicts. Well, the thing is about Kratom is that Kratom makes you motivated. It supercharges your motor. It makes you want to accomplish more. It makes you want to go the extra mile. It makes you want to get 1% better every single day. And it's a gift from God. It's a plant, but it's a gift from God. And I have no shame proclaiming it. I'm not an addict. Are you?
Hey, that's not important right now. That's not important right now. But what is important is that weed does make you a loser. Nick Fuentes and Tucker are right. People that smoke weed in their 20s are, they're trying to hold on to their childhood with their bear-like grasp, with their clubbed hands and their paint chip covered mouth. And they say, please God, don't let me grow up. I just want to smoke weed and be a lazy dumbass all day. But it's true. While weed makes you useless and non-functional, kratom actually increases your functionality. And I have yet to see any arguments against it. And so the benefits far outweigh any potential cons. People are addicted to a ton of things. Caffeine is the most normalized, nicotine is one of them. According to online forums, actually, the best source of information, the kratom withdrawals aren't that bad, and you just have to be a man about it, especially if you're not on 7-0. So I'm okay with it.
Joey Donati, as our in-house Kratom correspondent, could you please enlighten us on your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, as we know, safe kratom consumption is one of the most beneficial herbs to consume to better your overall production, mood, um, phys physical attributes. But as we know, in my opinion, and based on research with Dr. Chris McCurdy and others on X and people that have spoken on kratom, it is the number one natural substance for curing inflammation, improves your focus, more energy, enhances brain functionality. The most important aspect is how you consume it. What's in the type of kratom you're going after. Kratom changed my life. I'm gonna be real with you. Tore my ACL and long nights and ton of pain, mentally draining. Kratom changed all that in one. I I researched everything there was to know about kratom and how it does oppose from weed, something that slows you down and makes you groggy, but might have the same aspects in pain relief. I haven't had any single negative effects of kratom ever, ever. And that's because I've been safe in how I use it. I've researched how to use it, and I've made it so I am not addicted to it. I have gone more than one night, 2 nights, 3 nights without using kratom and not feeling anything because the way kratom is, it's almost like it is like drinking a coffee to me. Not drinking too much of it, but it does the job in improving your focus, and improving
Your way of life.
sleep, anything. I don't know. You know more about it than me. I was just saying how it makes me feel. Overall, have never had a bad experience with kratom ever.
Listen, we have centuries and centuries of kratom use in Southeast Asia that prove the safety and efficacy of the natural kratom leaf. Kratom is a gift from God. We talked about a lot of problems with this world, especially this country today. And I want to leave our Nimrod audience with the solution. The Nimrods think that we should cut off food stamps. I, Lou Stump, support defunding the NGOs that are handing out clean needles and hard drugs on Kensington Avenue. Maybe these starving losers will be a little bit better off if we don't shove hard drugs in their face and get them addicted and homeless. And instead, we mandate kratom use. That's the only solution. Yeah, we should bring back mental institutions. And yeah, maybe we should get rid of the homeless shelters and send them to those mental institutions. And let's rebrand it and let's call them kratom shelters. Mandate kratom use. The only way to radicalize an entire society is through Christ. And what did our Lord God give to us as a remedy to every problem known to mankind? Mitragyna speciosa. The globalists picked a fight with us, and I hate to break it to you. If you wanted a fight, you got one, and now we have our secret weapon. Mitragyna speciosa. We are going to pump up the homeless people full of kratom, and they are going to become black-pilled, trad, alpha males, and they will lead the Groyper army all the way down to D.C. and reclaim the capital. The only answer to 1984 is 1776. God bless America. God bless our country. God bless our troops. God bless God especially. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to stop by your local Circle K and pick up a nice heaping frothy bowl of Kratom. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.